Vicky, you're gonna run this. You're gonna run this whole entire
Distraction. Last game, we only had 3 people. Teaming up and everything, and my dad had any choke on it. He just had it out. I got 12 people on it. Yeah, but it's interesting. My granddaughter always said, it's just been so. That's really my daughter. I would like to all this to figure out. But she didn't, she's been by.
No, I just it's like 3 or 400 better than
But he has changes, he's got to be original, you know.
Yeah, I'll do that.
David.
Fine when nobody's around.
David.
I don't.
Yes.
And we talk about, throwing it away or something. That's my.
I know.
No one.
Ready to go.
You ready? All right. All right. David? Ready. Okay. No one popped in the door since the last meeting 5 minutes ago, so. Welcome to the committee of the whole meeting on March 9th, 2023, starting at 6:18 p.m. So we have the same announcements as before. So we're ready to exit, we're to go to the bathroom, we're to sign in, which I think everyone has done. So without belating that, repeating it again, let's have a call to order.
Commissioner Archambault?
Here.
Commissioner Lesson?
Here.
Commissioner Rapp?
Here.
Commissioner Root?
Here.
Commissioner Seaman?
I'm here.
Commissioner Kodo?
Present.
Commissioner James is absent. We have a quorum.
Okay. Any additions or changes to the agenda?
There is one. We received a number of requests from commissioners regarding the presentation from Eric Anderson and Piper Sandler. That presentation has been removed from tonight's agenda.
Okay. Any other changes? All right, communications, JP? None. Remarks from visitors?
What are these remarks allowed to be?
Whatever you want, Katie.
This is anything, but this is the only time in the committee.
Yeah, it's only one go around.
One
for
session.
remarks this time. So if anyone has any remarks, do the same thing. If you can keep it to 3 minutes, we appreciate it.
It's just a comment, met with respect to all of you and what you're doing. I may be a newcomer, but I must say I don't like the feeling that I don't really trust what's going on. And tonight, Christina, when she mentioned this is simply a placeholder, it just sent a chill down my spine back to, you guys know better than I would, it's a year and a half ago, when you were going to do initial concepts, design concepts to guide us, should we ever do this? In record time, you fast forward into hiring consultants, more designs, you know, the open house. It was and that's where, to me, a lot of this does become an insidious process and a very steep, slippery slope. So I can't say, I respect what the points you're trying to make, that this is a placeholder in your budget, and it's nice to have. That seems kind of disingenuous to me, and I know you're doing your job, and I'm just saying, I'm having a hard time thinking it's just that innocent. I think there's full intent to move forward without a public mandate to do so. That's just my comment. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else want to make remarks? Katie?
I really appreciate you're all volunteers, but the meeting that you want to have on the open house, I believe is during spring break. And,
It's the week before.
okay, I'm just saying, there's a lot of people out of town. And if you want to get the best turnout, you really want feedback, do it the first week of April or the second week of April. I mean, you're not going to get it. Number two, we don't have the same relationship with any other board that we work with. And I think there's a lack of transparency in a lot of things that you guys are moving forward on. And I have to to tell you, after 2+ years, I don't understand why this is happening. No one at any of the meetings feels the way that the public, we represent the public. The lakefront is all of ours. It's all of ours. It is a public body, a public entity, and I don't think you're respecting what the public wants. We want 2 piers, the stormwater pipe on the south. That's it. If you can't go through his property, get an easement, get eminent domain, but stop this craziness. 2 years, $1 million, approximately, whatever it is, and then we're gonna do another $1.6 million of design. I gotta tell you, from the outside, we have nothing to show for the first $1 million. That's my opinion.
Any other remarks from visitors? Hearing none?
Sorry, Judy, I'm sorry.
Okay, new business, 5.1, Elder Lane and Centennial Beach Open House. Joseph?
Thank you. Currently, the Elder Lane Centennial Beach Open House is scheduled for March 18th. Unfortunately, scheduling-wise, the community house was already booked out, so we're going to be hosting that at Skokie School in the cafeteria. We have a planned meeting to review that space to make sure that we can make accessibility is not an issue. But we're planning to host that meeting at 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. in the morning. And then the correspondence for the open house will be available 2 days prior, and they'll be on their website as a presentation post the open house as well for the community to review and back from there. John, I believe you've been working on
You mean the poster boards and related?
Yeah, the poster boards in regards to the presentation boards will be put into a presentation that somebody can follow and understand. Instead of just seeing a board and not understanding the meaning behind the board, can understand the board and what's the story behind the board, what it's accomplishing, and then how that progression works through the series of boards that we're designing. We're looking as part of the design, and I know we're talking about the open house, but part of the design of that, as we're working through with our design team, is to look at Elder independent of Centennial, Centennial independent of Elder, looking those as a cohesive unit, and then what does that look like as an all-in plan if property change was to come to fruition and where things go in the future. But the focus is Elder and moving on with 2A Stone Light, reviewing that plan, determining having that independent review from Matt Wright in his opinion, along with the rest of the design team of Burke, looking with Matt on the stormwater piece, along with the Lakota team, Spaceco, to round out the team that is preparing those documents. We've been working on that, we're going to continue working on that. Like I said, our anticipated goal is to release that 2 days prior, so the Thursday before, so that would be the 16th, and then have those available, of course, presented at the meeting, and then post-meeting have the presentation available for public consumption on the website.
For those who can't attend.
For those who cannot attend, yes.
Any questions of Costa?
Go ahead.
2, would it be possible, we talked about this before the January workshop, is it possible to do something 3D so that folks can actually see, have the impact of what what the Stone Breakwater is going to do? For many people who are familiar with Elder Centennial, they are really, really concerned that, now they can look all the way on a clear day to Waukegan, they can look down, go far down, but they don't see to Chicago, they think they do. But is there a way that you could have some sort of 3D presentation virtually? Like you do when you walk into, if you're at home for sale and you want to look and see what's there. I'm not very articulate about this, but I know there are ways to do this. And I think it would be I think it would defray a lot of concerns if folks had that opportunity.
Sure. I can't say that we would be able to accomplish that because that is not part of the cost that we put into the original scopes of work that were identified. I'm not sure what the cost to render something like that would be. We can definitely look into it, as I don't think it would be ready for the 18th, to be perfectly honest. But once the board lands on the design or gives staff further direction as a board, we can move forward with whatever presentation, modeling, graphic design, whatever you want to call it, to sell or to better explain this or to present or show that, we can definitely look at those different avenues, whether it's electronic where it's a virtual piece, or if it's a professionally built model. Those are definitely options. But I would need more discussion on that because the cost will be probably into that $20,000 price range, maybe more. I don't know.
I think the timing of trying to get it done for next Saturday is challenging, but I think, if it's possible to be done after next Saturday, I think that'd be interesting to look into that. Be happy, let's do that, just to see what.
So, second point, you had a comment or was that?
Well, kind of continuing on, we put a movie on our website, if you recall, in October of '21. And that gave you a look from a bird's eye view. I'm thinking, why can't we do something like that? And then maybe we can even load it on the website. So anybody that wants to look at it, if our goal is to engage the public and to also encourage, what I'm trying to do is to find a way to bring people together rather than apart. And a lot of it is folks are afraid. They're afraid that the vista that they have now is going to be forever destroyed. They're afraid of that. So that's why I made the suggestion. My second point is really a question. Where is Matthew Wright on his bids for a coastal engineer to do some 3D hydrodynamic modeling?
So currently, had a discussion with him on that fact. Right now, the scope and scale of what would be modeled it's unknown. We're still working through that design. So once that's known, then he can come back with proposals on those bids from third-party independent firms to provide that for us.
It just seems to me we have, again, the cart before the horse, where we're building a structure, but I would think that would come before, so you can kind of figure out what that structure should be.
Understood and agreed, but I would suggest that we're working on the final designs, the elevations, the heights, the steel, everything that goes into those components to make sure that we're looking within our budget and what we've presented to build within that, taking into consideration those same elements of those views and vistas to make sure those are not lost during this construction, this process, looking at what the sand would be as far as profiles to understand that, looking at elements that the public knows that are down there, looking at the height elevation of the existing pier at 585, knowing that is the highest point that we're projecting, on the eastern part of the breakwater, to be able to stand there from that elevation and look by, somebody could physically go down to site and see that, and it's represented there physically, so there's no better view than being feet on the ground. And that's what we tried to represent when we did Centennial, the string lines, previously under a post or a previous design. We're open to that dialogue and looking into those methods for sure. But the modeling quotes would come once we have that design finalized, and that's what we're working on currently.
Thank you.
Sure. David?
Just a couple suggestions. Costs. You have dated incorrect information that you're not afraid to share in front of the public about not having the numbers, but all the numbers regarding 3,700 are in the budget book. Not the budget book, but the budget presentation that I have, and I believe that was sent to all commissioners on January 24th. It's in there. So hold on.
I didn't receive it January 24th.
Okay, well, nonetheless, they're in there. So I would strongly suggest, to be consistent with the budget, just to have a board that has the numbers, and not just for 23 potentially, but maybe for 24, because I know that we had talked about in our LRP, there were some Centennial expenses in the 24 year for Centennial. Now again, I know that's tough because we don't know exactly what we're doing. That's one suggestion. Number two, is the public aware, has it been put up on the website that the meeting is in fact the 18th of March from 9 to 11?
I believe so.
Okay, I didn't know that.
We have a postcard going out. The mailer will hit the mailboxes next week.
Fantastic.
Early in the week.
And then the last comment regarding, given the village's involvement, which I welcome, in what goes on in the lakefront, that they are going to hire an engineer at the permittee's expense. So I don't know necessarily if we're going to need, well, this mysterious coastal engineer that, well, we don't even have him in Illinois. So we actually may be able to save money. That's good for the budget, right? Is that good for the budget? We could save money. Initially, there's no reason to double pay for a coastal, quote-unquote, coastal engineer when we know the village is going to bill us in the review of our application.
Any other board member comments? Cynthia?
I had a couple comments that I get back to John, but I didn't want to put out there for consideration by the group. We all received communication from a resident asking, can we get Alder open? I think that as the weather gets much nicer, that question is going to continue to come. And I think that it would be appropriate to include some information about that at the open house so that we are clearly explaining the rationale for that.
The safety issue rationale.
Yeah, but, rationale behind our decision generally, and, yeah. So
Question.
the other thing that I think is important to cover is some information about the timeline. I noticed, like Evanston recently did an open house on their own shoreline project, and they had a nice visual of their engagement timeline. I think that laying out, we're doing public engagement now, here's when we expect to have, final reports from engineers, here's when we expect to go to permit, here's when we expect to have public comment on permit, here's when we expect to be clear, that, here's when we expect to start construction. Just starting to lay that out, I think would be helpful so that the public has, some idea what to expect in terms of decisions and, when will Alder be open? And then just to echo David's comment about costs, the other thing in terms of communication is that will we be able to upgrade some of our board communications with new team members? I think I received in the last day or two the Wilmette board briefs summary, and I find that information helpful, and I think that that's good to have in front of the public in terms of where we are in our decision-making process, what things we're covering, just so that we are engaging. And I think that it would give us a little bit more credit in terms of being more transparent and also helping rebuild trust. I know we've been limited on staff to be able to do that, but hopefully that is something that we can get back to. And also just making sure that we are promoting this open house so that people know to attend, because I think at the community house we have the benefit of a lot of foot traffic, because people are generally in the community house to go to the gym, to drop off their kids, to do whatever. And at Skokie School, we're not going to have that same level of foot traffic. So I think we will need a little bit more of a push around that.
Can I just clarify one thing? You want to make sure that now that we have the appropriate level of staffing, that people know that we have resources to answer their questions? Is that what you're saying? In addition, we have a complete marketing plan for the March 18th event?
I think we need a complete marketing plan for the 18th event.
Yep.
But also, for example, in Wilmette, after, before their board meeting or after their board meeting, they can publish a summary of the topics that were discussed, with links to the website, with links to the presentations, so that people can follow it. And, like in their most recent one, they had, here's where we are with the Langdon Beach project.
Got it, okay.
And I think that to the extent that we are able to do that with our beach project, and also the golf course and stormwater and everything else that we're doing, I think that that's a really positive thing. And then people can go back and refer to the email and link back to our website to feel like they're current. If they want to have input, Wilmette also is doing a huge outreach and survey campaign, so there's been a big promotion on that. I think those are good things for, hopefully we are now in a position to start to undertake some of that marketing, both for our open house, but I think more generally, it will really help us.
I just have one comment, and I will volunteer to help with it. I think based on the comments that we presentation, the focus of the budget is so clearly on the biggest expense, which is the beaches. And so I think that when we put together this timeline, we should go all the way back and talk about what was budgeted, what was spent, what was not spent, why it was not spent, when we pulled the permits, that kind of thing. What we had to do now, is this duplicative? We were in a design and build, now we're doing design separate from building. These are the costs. And then I would also say in that timeline, the village is variable. We have some variables. I don't know if you want to address the lawsuit in writing, but the lawsuit is a variable. I mean, all of those things, and I think people brought them, those were points that people brought up tonight, and I'm happy to work on that timeline with anyone, certainly from a financial perspective, but just address what we heard here tonight.
Eric, yeah. Good? Good. So just a quick comment, I do think the idea of putting a timeline up is fabulous, that's a good idea. Costa, is that something you'd be able to put that together?
We can get anything done. I just want to make sure that we're meeting the expectation of what the board is. So, Christina, if you have something, you have a good roadmap in your head on what you're thinking about for that, if the board would support that, and we're willing to work together, and we'll get that done. So, however we need to work that, the timeline itself from here on out, not a problem. We're already planning on that. But the timeline prior to understand that and where we've gone thus far, I'd love to be able to sit down with you and talk through that a little bit further.
I'll make it efficient for you. I'll write it all up
Yeah.
and send it to you. You check it.
I can take that.
Yeah. I mean, let's just be efficient about your time.
Sure.
Yeah, and I would say, when you do a timeline or a schedule, you can make it, you can do overkill on a schedule and you can not do enough. I would just say, at this point in time, just hit the big milestones in terms of schedule, right? Which will be easier for people to understand and not start, have their head spinning about what's gonna happen when for everything.
Agreed. Where the public notice goes out, when we go to permit, all that timelines, snapshot that, what a construction window might look like, when we go out to bid, and when that would be ultimately potentially approved, and then the construction season, and then understanding the restraints around construction, whether it is land-based, marine, we could definitely tackle all of that.
Okay. All right, and then one last thing, which I've said before, that maybe it doesn't resonate, is, we have committed to do a peer review, and to understand and do a peer review, an engineering design has to be, that has to have been done. So you can't ask a guy to do a peer review of something that's been prepared yet. So that's just the process, not just for this project, it's for every project where you want to get a peer review. They have to have something to review and not come in on their own. So just want to, again, reiterate that statement, so hopefully it becomes clear. All right, we're going to move on to, sure.
If the village ends up wanting to do that peer review, can we table ours and take the villages in place of ours? Just to save money?
I went to the meeting, the village meeting on Tuesday evening, and after the meeting, I spent some time visiting with Jim Burnell. And basically he said that they currently do not have Baird Engineering under contract. He said what they're gonna do is, now that the stopgap ordinance has been passed, was passed on Tuesday evening, that he's gonna sit down with Baird and start negotiating with them. But his comment was, look, we're only bringing in Baird when and as we need to. He perceives that many of these applications, particularly for private residents, they're going to be something that staff, engineering staff in the village, is going to be able to just, approve. And particularly when they're going to start meeting with the applicant early on, which I thought was an excellent idea, and have communication. So he was not perceiving that they are going to have, quote, a coastal engineer full-time working on these projects. It's just when they are confronted with a project that may be unique, where they feel they don't have the acumen and skill to do this. So, as far as, who knows? We can, I would think that once, you have your design ready, you're in communication, Costa, that's a question I presume, you're in so that you'll be working collaboratively.
Correct. So I had a construction stormwater meeting today at 10 o'clock. When that completed, Jim and I sat down for about another hour reviewing that very topic, reviewing what took place on Tuesday. You are correct. They do not have dirt under contract. And, Commissioner Root also expressed, and is very accurate in her statement, that they are looking through and they will review what they can in-house, and then they will, bring in the experts as needed, as it's defined. And if that's out of their scope, then they would bring that third party. So, and whether it's Baird or whoever it might be, that's been undetermined, but yes, the peer review is not a guarantee from the village. It's probably assumed because of the magnitude and
My guess
the
is
but
the
yes.
focus on our project will,
Right, it probably wouldn't warrant that, but it's not 100% guaranteed.
in the
that
event
would
that they
happen.
do decide to do one, perhaps we can
Right.
take theirs as a true
That's,
second,
that's a key comment.
yes.
If they decide to, probably will,
Yeah.
but they haven't yet.
Yeah.
And then, once again, you have to realize that the village is not gonna be in position or want to be in a position to usurp anything the Army Corps says is approved, or anything IDNR says is approved. They're not gonna supersede those decisions. So, it all sounds wonderful that they're gonna get there, be there, and however people wanna perceive this move. But, they would be looking at our stuff anyway. So the fact that people wanna formalize it, and they have to go to Beard to get a proposal, so that's fine. That's something they're taking on, but I don't want people's expectations to be that they're gonna come in and, well, I know the Army Corps said this, but, we're the village, we have responsibility, so we're gonna do that. It's not gonna happen.
Actually, what they,
So I just keep a mindset to it, and again, they haven't done it yet. I agree with you, Christina, that if they do, and it's the lakefront, if it's the first one, they will have I think they'll have a heavy hand in it. That's fine. I don't have an issue with that. We got nothing to hide.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Christine, Colleen.
I'm Colleen, and actually, what the focus is what they call minding the gap. They realize that the IDNR and the Corps only look at certain things. And so they are more concerned with looking at things like aesthetics. This stuff, like Shoreview, access for the residents to traverse the beach, although the Corps certainly, requires steps and whatever. So I think that what they're hoping to do is to find those areas where the IDNR and Corps are not necessarily regulated.
Well,
That's what they have.
we're making some assumptions here, so let's see if it passes first, and let's see.
Well, the ordinance is passed already. They have a gap, they've done a gap ordinance, it's done. It was voted on Tuesday evening. Now, how it's implemented is the real question.
Okay, so we're gonna move on. Unfinished business, draft of proposed media policy for the Winnetka Park District.
Thank you, Commissioner Archibald. The draft media policy is in your packet, both clean copy and red line, and it's based on the communications from the most recent discussion of the media policy. I went back in detail looking at the video and the comments made by the commissioners, so it's a reflection of all those comments. And where you asked to have certain things removed, et cetera. So the idea is for you to have one last look at it as we move through the committee of the whole meeting and present it for a vote during the March 23rd board meeting. So
Here's what I found.
happy to take any comments tonight, or if you want to send some comments in, but I can circulate those to the balance of the commissioners, but I think it's ready to go. We've had a fair amount of discussion around it.
I have a comment.
All right, David, go ahead.
Thank you.
Sorry, you need to expand on that. Okay. Yeah, no, so, and I think let's set a deadline for when you get the comments back. So if anybody has a comment, submit it, but, please get them in at least like Tuesday before the meeting, so everyone will have a full chance to look at it, dissect it, and if they want to put a comment on a comment, they'll have time to do so. So
I think we're pretty
locked down. I pretty much agree. All right, Mayor's the director?
Yeah, two. Kyle Berg was great last Tuesday. He sent out an email introducing Denise Kaufman, who is sitting to my left, the Assistant Manager for Administrative Operations. Just thrilled that you're part of the team. So thank you for being here tonight and for the opportunity to work with you. There's energy plus positive attitude, all sorts of great elements.
They take a picture yet? It's on the website.
But she's also, your background, if you want to expand on it, it's in government, if you will.
Yeah,
So,
I've spent my entire career in government. I started out at the federal level. I spent some time in Washington DC working for the senator from my home state. And then I spent some time at state government. I worked in Colorado Board of Education. And I have recently, most recently been in Lake County with some fire districts. So I have a little touch in a bunch of different rural areas. I'm happy to be here, so thank you so much to everyone for the warm welcome. It's been
awesome.
very, very positive experience, so thank you.
We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Okay.
One last item, so staying with Denise, she and I are working on the meeting minutes for the month of February. So we had 2 meetings in the month, both with open and closed sessions, so we'll present those on the Diligent website under the Commissioners Only segment by Tuesday of next week, so that you have enough runway to review and approve those. So we have a nice cadence going. We're through January, we'll be through February by the end of March, and then we'll just move into April and be through March by the end of April, etc. So anyway, just be on the lookout for an email we'll send asking you to keep a look, or to review actually, the meeting minutes for February. So that's it.
All right. Staff reports. Denise, do you want to go first? Or you want to go last?
Nikki, poorly.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Board liaison reports. Cynthia?
Just from the caucus, we do have a chair of the Parks Committee, David Botzett. The caucus is still assembling the team underneath him, but I'm pretty excited that he has stepped up to chair the Parks Committee. He was a potential candidate for slating, and he was actually our alternate. So he is not starting from scratch because he has been following our issues in preparation for that. So at some point, he will be introduced in person in a meeting, but the caucus is progressing and putting their team in place.
Anything else? Anything for D36? Cynthia? Okay. Any other liaison reports? Okay. Hearing none. Staff reports? So now you're ready, Denise.
I would just echo what John said, that I was working really closely with him to get the minutes to you guys quickly and efficiently so that we don't get a big stack up like you had recently, so
Okay.
appreciate you looking at those.
Okay, great. Kyle, you ready?
Yep, I'll start with a bit of bad news, but not a huge thing. We're going to have to cancel our Spring Carnival event that was scheduled for the end of March due to low enrollment. We wanted to make sure that we gave enough time to our vendor to let them know that we did not have sufficient numbers for that event. I think it's a lesson learned with the timing of the calendar relative to spring break. Not at all indicative of the response for events, or that event in particular, and we will adjust and grow for the future. Recreation staff is working on the summer planning, be it Toby with camps, James and Matt with the lakefront, Debbie working with some of our various non-sports programs. So we are working hard to be ready for a very exciting, very busy summer. We are close to a final first draft of a community survey that will be intended to be used later into spring, early summer is a timeline we're working towards. Once we are completed with the first draft, it will be shared with leadership within staff for feedback, and then a draft from there will be shared with commissioners for feedback for a rollout to get a high-level view of Park District operations. We are working on a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, with a local golf course to allow access to Winnetka Park District residents to that course at resident rates. We are optimistic be able to get that through in time for the golf season, and look forward to expanding more once that has become official. We are close to the end of the process, but not quite there, for the District 36 IGA discussions. We had a lot of positive momentum with getting a finalized draft in place. We were almost to the point of having legal counsel review before we can share with the commissioners. But I want to emphasize that with the negotiations, with any sort of land conversations relative to the referendum work engaged by District 36, this will not be done before those conversations have a full opportunity to progress, and one will not be done before the other. They're very much in lockstep. I do want to do a clarification, or rather update with our work with the Winnetka Youth Organization. Unfortunately, they had a bit of a flood in their space, community house recently, and so we are working to offer some space to them for a short amount of time as needed for the next few weeks. And that conversation will also lead into possibly looking towards the future of bringing them into the park district for a more consistent space. I've got meetings scheduled for next week on that topic. And then finally, clarification for the open house, the wonders of technology. I've been communicating with Gracie Durham, our co-manager of marketing and brand. She said that the postcards are in the mail, and then we're just awaiting a final copy from the firm that we engage with for the social media, press release, and email announcement to the community. So that is coming as soon as we receive that information. That's all I have.
Quick question for you, Carl. Any update on fireworks or location or whatever, is it?
Yeah, so there are some updates that are firm from our standpoint, but tentative as far as getting final approval. We fully intend to have fireworks on the 4th of July. Our hope is that they will be launched from the Public Works site as normal. We are in the process of engaging with the village to make sure that they are on board with that. If that is not okay by what is allowable with construction, then we will pivot accordingly. Assuming that that is the launch site, the turf area will be the viewing area. Correct, the turf as well as some of the green space surrounding where Fourth Fest will occur. It will be a slightly modified performance as compared to years past because of the further viewing point. We have to make it an all aerial display. Still a wonderful experience for the community, and again, we fully intend to offer it.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions of Kyle?
I read that Hammond Park is doing a drone display, and I just wanted to put that out there
Yeah.
because I was interested and curious and thought, well, is that more or less expensive than the fireworks? Does it offer some benefits because, like, is it something we should be looking at because we are in this weird construction
For sure.
stuff, you know?
Thank you. And it's a great idea, something that's very popular right now. I don't know how it compares specifically to fireworks. However, based on conversations I've heard and what I've read, it is a very expensive thing to do because it is very, not many people do a drone display. And so I think it's a great idea. I think as long as we are able to offer the fireworks, that would be the preferred route. But if a situation were to be presented where that's not possible, I think that's a good alternative.
I think we should pitch to be someone's sample for free.
That'd be a great idea.
Just, I would make the call.
I think that could be a great opening for Lakefront in the future.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
yeah,
would be sweet.
touche.
That would be sweet.
Okay, anything else for Kyle? Costa?
Mickey, thank you. A few things to cover. Just want to give a quick update on stormwater. Currently, things are moving along nicely. The one thing I will note that's going to be coming up soon, and you probably see the correspondence that come out with the Winnetka's update or the road signs, but the week of spring break, Hibbard Road from Elm Street through Ash is gonna be closed completely, no flaggers, it's just gonna be shut down, so the village can go ahead and complete their installation and work through their, storm drains as they run to the north, so just be aware of that. The Park District will still detour through our lot, so that will be the detour to access the, paddle hut, the tennis shack, as well as the clubhouse and the ice arena, so be aware of that. Next week, we are anticipating 4 facilities to go offline with water main work that's directly related to them as well. So Tuesday, there will be some facilities that go offline, and then the following week, the ice arena will be going offline for a matter of probably an 8 to 10 hour break while they relocate water mains as part of the construction. We're working with the marketing team. We met and we have a plan together on what that looks like, communication and what that's going to be looking like. So we're going to be notifying and putting things at the facilities for people that are aware. It's the water shutoff's not a big issue. It's more or less just we'll have everything bagged up because there won't be any consumable water, if you will, drinking water, anything potable, if you will. So ice, anything you would use to cook with, if you're making soup or maybe coffee. So those are things that'll be under a boil order they're following. So just be aware of that. Otherwise, as the work progresses on the golf course, Mother Nature has not given us a good winter one way or the other. We've been in this limbo, de facto kind of stage here, where it hasn't been cognizant or very conducive, I should say, to work on the course. There's been some work being done, but the real work on the course is probably not going to start until April 1. So just be aware, you're going to see a lot more activity come April on the course based on conversations that we had today. With that being said, at the next board meeting, I'm going to be looking to try to bring forward that change order that was discussed at a high level for the golf court, or excuse me, for the golf course greenside bunkers. As Kemper had presented, there was a $315,000 ad, which they were able to reduce their budget and work it in as the overall. I think there was only an ad of maybe $60,000 or $65,000 overall to the budget at that point in time. Working with the village and looking to try to work this through as a change order through the village has been the best avenue. There's been negotiations that have been completed. Wadsworth has reduced their price, so we're trying to do it with the GC Omnicourse themselves, or excuse me, the subcontractor with the GC of DeMeo on the course to provide that service for us. So you'll be having a forward summary a couple weeks here, hopefully. As part of that, the village is going to note in there's going to be an amendment to the IGA to make sure that it's understood that if any of this works delays that, that's part of our responsibilities. Change order and the DeMeo and the subcontractor all assured us that this would not impact any of that, so we're pretty comfortable with that as well. In addition to that, we've been looking at, it might seem small scale, but the sand that goes into those bunkers, looking at different opportunities that are out there to try to help reduce costs of the project overall, something that we're always interested in. Dave Broley, our regional director of agronomy for Kemper, was working with a couple different firms, identified a product from Thielens in Antioch as a sand bunker product that we're interested in. The nice thing is it meets all the USG standards. It's been put in a couple test spots at different courses, but it has not been put in a course full-fledged throughout. It meets all the specifications for the USGA. The reviews that Rick Jacobson has received from Strawberry Creek and their use on the course in the last year, and the bunkers that they placed it was good, very positive. What we've heard from other courses that have done temporary bunkers with it as well is positive. We're looking at about a 50% haircut on our sand cost to do that. So this is a product that they blend on site and meets all the parameters. And the biggest reduction isn't the cost of the material, it's the trucking. This product will be coming from Antioch, so it's a lot closer than the middle of the state of Wisconsin through Wapaka, which is where the North Face sand was coming from. So it's another thing we're just looking at. We just want to be aware of that. And then the last piece on the golf course are cart paths. The cart paths, as designed, are anticipated to be installed, but there is curiosity around soft spots that we might run into as part of that installation with the soil consistency that we have on the course and a lot of the work, there are areas that are not being directly impacted as part of the construction, so the stability of the soil is something that, you know, has been brought to our attention during a proof roll, which is basically what the contractor does. They bring in a piece of equipment, a roller in this case, they roll the earth prior to putting the stone in, geofabric down to see how it moves to make sure it's solid. If there's movement, they're suggesting to us, we either look to do a 6-inch cut of stone to stabilize that, or depending on the severity, up to a foot cut of stone, look at that. They have worked up costs for that. Those costs, for instance, you know, if we had to do a 6-inch cut for 50 feet, equates to about $500. That's about $9.78 per linear foot of cart path. If we had to do a 6-inch cut throughout the entire course, we would be looking at around $218,000. I'm not trying to scare anybody. We're not anticipating that. That's kind of a worst case scenario. We're comfortable with the original design from what the soil borings had shown, but there's gonna be probably an area or two where we're gonna have to address this. There is about $85,000 of contingency that was built into the project overall. The 2 bridges that were added due to the Army Corps' determination came in about $13,000 less, so there's a small cost savings there. But the contingency is gonna be pretty tight. At that point in time, I might ask the board for a do not exceed a number, just so we have something for the village, so they understand that we're in support of this initiative. If that comes through, staff is very confident that we wouldn't look to run that entire number, but it's more of a, okay, the board did approve this, meaning the park board is in favor of us moving on with that versus staff just openly saying, yeah, I approve $200,000. So I just want to make sure the board is aware of that. That'll be in a write-up summary to the board as well, so you guys can have a better understanding of the project, complexity of this. But like I said, we're anticipating this to be a small contingency that we might use out of the one that's already been set, but I don't know. So
Did
time
you
will tell.
proof roll the whole park path system?
Mhm.
Okay, so they'll have a pretty good idea of how many spots we're talking about.
As they construct it, the way that it's constructed, they excavate down and then they roll that soil to make sure the substrate will hold that footprint, and if it won't, that's when we would look to put the fabric down in the stone in those areas. Once again, the chances of it needing throughout the entire course, they're probably slim, but I just want to make sure that we're staged appropriately in case we need to move forward.
Because their timing is very close.
It's very critical, yes.
Yeah, they're laid it out. Yeah, and for anyone who's played that course, it's, you can certainly understand that even though it's supposed to be level now, it's really, it's one of these, and it's
low,
clay,
it's wet,
and
it's the
it's.
floodplain.
Right.
golf course.
Yeah.
Right, so that's not a surprise. Costa, and I actually don't think it was $200,000 that's a lot of linear footage for a continuous cart path, so that doesn't astonish me. And I would tend to agree with you that it's probably gonna be in spots.
Right.
Again, it's asphalt, and asphalt is not a structural material. It's a
Right.
so.
There is a stone cut going under there already as part of the original design, but in those areas where it's soft, that can permeate through, and then you probably won't see it year 1 or 2, but over the years, with the freeze thaw, it'll start to fracture and move on us. Come year 5 to year 10, we might have a problem on our hands, we just want to be proactive with our investment.
So if they strike oil, who owns it?
It's our course.
Okay. All right, any questions of Costa?
Can I ask one more question on the open house? Are we going to have our consultants present?
Yes.
So
All
Tom,
of our,
all of
all of our
them coming?
consultants will be present.
That's great. Thank you.
Including Scott and Morgan from the Group.
Oh, great, thanks.
Jim?
2 items. First, the 2022 audit is ongoing. So far, it's gone very smoothly. The auditors will be here in our offices in 11 days to do their field day. I don't expect any problems. They've been very forthcoming with what they're looking for, and so far we've provided much of what they wanted. So it's going along rather nicely. I expect to have their initial report hopefully by the first week in April, and then the final report will follow shortly thereafter. So the other thing, have worked with the executive director and a number of other folks to devise the monthly financial report. The older one was problematic from a labor-intensive perspective. I've tried to standardize it and streamline it so that it's easier both to read and to prepare. Pardon me. I have a draft here that I'm going to pass out to all of you to review. The numbers here are not final numbers, it's just more for display purposes than anything else. But I would like to start using this report beginning the March 23rd meeting and going forward from there. So I will pass this out to you and this is wrap up the staff reports.
Is that almost a direct lift and shift from Tyler?
Yes, it's virtually a direct, the report is directly from Tyler and it's cut and pasted into PowerPoint. So rather than having to transpose the numbers from one to another to a third, which was rife for data entry errors or misunderstandings, this streamlines the whole process and the numbers tie up much more cleanly than they were previously. So.
Nice, well done. Okay. I think I hit all the staff, didn't miss anybody, all right. So that brings us to the end of the agenda. May I have a motion to go into closed session pursuant to 5 ILCS 210/section 2C1, the appointment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body. 5 ILCS 120, section 2C5, for the purchase or lease of property. 5 ILCS 122C6, for the setting of price for sale or lease of a property. And 5 ILCS 122C11, for litigation when an action against affecting on or behalf of a particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent.
So moved.
Second.
That's a roll call, Denise.
Commissioner Archibald,
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson,
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Seaman,
Yes.
Commissioner Koto,
Yes.
that motion passes.
Okay, all right, 7:09, Denise, in terms of the time. Okay, so we're gonna go into closed session, we'll take a little bit of time off. I don't think we will be coming back to do any further business after, so we can't, so, thank you all for coming, I appreciate it, Don, once again. Thank you for keeping the seat warm back there, appreciate it. And we'll take